So today I have a very old fragrance to review, almost 100 years old. This very interesting bottle of Lemon by Coty. This came out in 1927, so it is very old. I am a fan of this bottle design. It's obviously in the style of the Art Deco style, which was popular during the 1920s and 30s. And the interesting thing about this, I've already tried it, but the interesting thing is that it's very, very reminiscent of a few other vintage perfumes, specifically Chanel No. 5 and L'air du Temps by Nino Ricci. And I mean, even the color here is pretty reminiscent of Chanel No. 5. But it does have a few differences here. So I'll put some on my wrist because there. And right off the bat, there's this immediate, delicious, just very, very Chanel. But the difference is that it's a little bit lighter, a little bit powdery, a little bit of everything. So let me go into a bit of the history of this perfume first, because it does have an interesting history. So it came out in 1927, which was a few years after the release of Chanel No. 5, which came out in 1921. And this, Lemon, was specifically kind of a response from Coty to the release of No. 5. And interestingly, even though it's not really a well-known fragrance these days, when it came out it was a huge hit. Coty as a brand was well known for producing very high quality fragrances, and Lemon, along with Coty's Emerald, were the supposedly only two perfumes that Guerlain's wife wore. So Guerlain obviously produced Shalimar and many other important fragrances, but apparently his wife insisted on wearing two perfumes from Coty, which is an interesting fact, I think. And the other thing, the notes in this fragrance are very interesting. Top notes are aldehydes, peach, bergamot, and neroli. And if you're familiar with Chanel No. 5, then you know that it's a very famous floral aldehyde fragrance. It was one of the first to use aldehydes because Chanel's master perfumer at the time recently discovered in a laboratory how to make aldehydes and how to use them in perfume. Lemon, it also is using these aldehydes, and that is probably why it smells so much like Chanel No. 5, is those aldehydes are just very light, bright, crisp, and then counteracted with the neroli specifically, which is more of this very smooth, kind of sultry sort of flower. And then, of course, the peach and bergamot. There is the sweetness of the peach. I would say the bergamot is a bit understated. There's not really any big citrus notes in there. The middle notes are ylang ylang, rose, jasmine, geranium, and orchid. Again, all of those add to the sweetness of this fragrance. It is surprisingly sweet for being from the 1920s, because a lot of perfumes from the 20s were less about sweetness and more about musk and powderiness. And but the fact that this semi-sweet fragrance is interesting and very refreshing. But the sweetness, this floral sweetness, is very warm. It's not something you would expect, not something you would really find today. But this is definitely very warm. Well, here's the thing. The name Lemon means magnet in French, and the kind of motto for this fragrance at the time, you could find old ads, that had lots to say about it. But the old thing they would say is like, it's the most feminine fragrance, or it's the fragrance that will attract the most men, like something along those lines. So Lemon can also mean beloved, the beloved, but they used it for magnet because apparently it was a very attractive fragrance in the 20s and 30s. And the middle notes, pretty much round out the top notes, and then the base notes are unique. Virginia cedar, vetiver, tonka bean, sandalwood, vanilla, and musk. So this is where the difference is with number 5, because Chanel number 5 has a very, very prominent civet note, very animalistic kind of note. This lacks the civet note. Instead, it's more of a general musk. I would say the woodiness is very prominent here. The sandalwood and the Virginia cedar. You do get that kind of dry yet warm woodiness, especially the longer you wear it. And this is one of my new favorite fragrances that I've discovered recently. It could just be because I already like number 5, so it makes sense that I like this. And it also reminds me of my top favorite fragrance, which is L'air du Temps. And it's kind of a mix between the two, actually. So it's a very surprisingly delicious fragrance, in my opinion. And overall, I mean, it's kind of a forgotten fragrance now. It's very, very affordable. And I suppose it's not considered designer anymore. But it still gives that very high quality, kind of ritzy vibe. I can imagine this being sprayed in a hotel lobby or hotel room. It's that kind of, light, rich kind of feeling. And it actually performs pretty well. It's an eau de toilette, so it's not gonna last 19 hours or anything. It's more of a 6-hour fragrance, so not the best for longevity, but compared to clones like the Emerald clone by Coty, that's pretty weak. Nice smell, but pretty weak longevity. But Le Mans is definitely longer lasting and just very pleasant. As you move around, you kind of get whiffs of the perfume, and it's very pleasing. It's very pleasing to the nose. The sillage, I would say, is pretty moderate, nothing too extravagant. As long as you put on enough, people will definitely know. They can smell what you're wearing. They probably won't know what you're wearing because most people don't know about Le Mans these days. But in general, this is just a very good kind of daytime fragrance. And it gives you the feeling of luxury for a very, very affordable price. And that's something that's kind of hard to find. And I mean, obviously, since it's been around from 1927, the brand is doing something right. The perfume is popular enough that it hasn't been discontinued. And one thing, I'm 99% sure that this fragrance has been reformulated probably multiple times, because that's just what happens with old fragrances. After a while, the company decides to reformulate them. But of course, I don't know how the original smell. I'm sure the original was much better than this, but this current modern formulation, I am a big fan of. I think it's pretty inoffensive. I think most people would like this, except for the powderiness it kind of has. So it has all of this floral, semi-sweet kind of aura mixed with the wood notes, a bit of the musk. But overall, that's kind of wrapped in this powdery aura. And some people don't like powdery perfumes. I like them, but some people, it reminds them of baby powder, or they just don't like it. But I wouldn't say it's too powdery. Some perfumes are too powdery, but this is really nice. It's very subtle. It keeps the perfume smelling clean, put together, all that. So in general, I really like this fragrance. I think it's a good choice for regular daytime use, going to the grocery store, going to the office. It's not, go to the club, wear this sort of fragrance. It's not powerful enough for that. But in general, daytime wear, just going out, very good fragrance. And just look at the bottle. The bottle is just, it's pretty enough to have as a decoration. Very Art Deco here. So I don't have anything to say about it except for it could last longer, but it is an eau de toilette, and it's just kind of an average sort of fragrance, especially the price, but still has that luxury kind of vibe. So That's what I have to say about Le Mans by Coty. If you have any kind of opinions about this fragrance, you can leave those down in the comments below. If you like the video, leave a like, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.